Did anyone go to, let's see, the admin image for everything one-click install presentation? Yeah? Was that good? Did you get your answers? Okay. Well, hopefully I'll touch on some things maybe Brian missed. I know I helped him out a little bit with that presentation last week, so hopefully I'll cover some more stuff. Because I know I think went into a little bit more detail as far as combining everything into one script, batch file type of thing, which I won't necessarily get into. So everything I'm going to be talking about, all the slides and everything pertains to 2013. Not a lot is different between 12 and 13. As you'll see, there are some changes that are obviously important, but just kind of a preface, everything you see here is 2013. So what is the installation manager? Obviously, you guys create admin images. You're familiar with it already. But it's essentially, it's a separate tool. It's a separate product, sort of, that manages the installation, removal, repair, all that good stuff of all our products. SolidWorks, all the add-ins, FlowSim, Sim, Plastics, new in 2013. It's in the installation manager. So for those of you who own Plastics, if anyone does, and you're on 2012, you know it's a separate installation. It's a separate file you got to download, worry about how it integrates. So 2013 is running the installation manager. E-drawing, SolidWorks Explorer, Workgroup PDM, the Workgroup PDM Vault, Solid Network License Manager, and PhotoView 360 Network Render Client, which again is new in 2013. I won't touch too much on that other than it's new. It's in the 2013 installation manager. It's a free product. If you don't enter a serial number, for example, you can still install it. So you'll see that right away. So why the IM? Why did we create this tool? Back in the day, I don't know how long you guys have been using SolidWorks, but I usually go back to 2007, 2006 of SolidWorks. There was, I think it was msetup.exe. You'd click on, a window would open. You'd click install SolidWorks. That would install, but windows would keep popping up. That would finish, another one would pop up. Not very nice. Admin images weren't very easy to do back then. You really had to know what you were doing. So the idea behind it is let's create a tool that helps you guys out, that simplifies that whole process. Something that's intelligent, knows what you need, when to update it. You don't have to worry about how many files do I need to download. Do I need to download them in a specific order? Do I need to install them in a specific order? The installation manager simplifies all that stuff, does it for you, so you can get your users up and running as soon as you can. And one of the big things is that's how you download the product. So nowadays, everyone downloads, I'm assuming, downloading service packs. You're downloading. Everything's on the web. We need a tool that can download the media. So I just have a bunch of slides of the installation manager through the years. It actually first showed up in 2007. For those people who don't know, it didn't do much. You could download service packs of SolidWorks. That was pretty much it. So then in 2008 is when we released kind of the first version of what it basically still does today. It had some growing pains in 2008. Did anyone use the installation manager in 2008? It was very painful. I started in 2007. I got thrown on the beta team, and this is all I saw for a year straight, so I felt your pain. But it got better. Just like any new product, it's got to get out there. We've got to weed out all the problems, fix things, enhance it. So 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 10, 11, 12, all kind of look the same. We've kind of standardized, to a certain extent, the user interface. So we feel like the tool as it is today with 2012 and 2013, it's pretty solid. And let's enhance it now. We've ironed out most of the bugs and problems, so let's run with that. So the installation manager itself, like I said, it's a separate application. So with that comes its own requirements. First is system requirements. In order to run the tool, you need to have a machine that has the SolidWorks system requirements. You know, the right OS, right type of computer, all that good stuff. Graphics card, not so important for the installation manager, but for running SolidWorks, obviously. Access to the internet is important. Most people have that these days. But it's not required to use the installation manager. The internet access obviously is to download, to check your serial number against our servers, to push back what you're entitled to, all that good stuff. But for example, if you have the DVD in your hand, you don't need to be connected to the internet to install because you have everything on there. It'll yell at you that you're not connected to the internet, but you can just skip it, install, do what you need to create, and worry about the internet connection, the activation, that stuff later, if so required. We have lots of military type customers who, they're in secure locations, they don't have access to the internet. They can still use this to do installations. That's some of the more technical side of things behind the scenes. So when you are connected to the internet, the installation manager is connecting to those sites. So I always usually recommend people, if you do have a firewall or any kind of thing that might be blocking traffic, accept star.solidworks.com to allow any kind of SolidWorks traffic to come through. And one of the big things is you need to be an admin to install. If you aren't an admin, you get that pop-up that says you aren't an admin, which is part of the intelligence that's been built into the installation manager. So that is actually one thing that's nice. The installation manager does have lots of pop-ups. Sometimes they can be, I know people don't like to read pop-ups, or they think they've read it once and they ignore it, and it pops up again. They might click OK and go, oh, I should have probably read that. It's always a good idea to read any pop-up that displays, especially in the installation manager. The install is very important. So those are kind of the requirements. If you get those things, Internet Explorer is actually very important. I should touch on this a little bit. That's why I have the icon there. So kind of the technology behind the installation manager, it's opening up and displaying HTML pages. So if there's a problem with your installation manager, your Internet Explorer, you might potentially have problems with running the installation manager. Has anyone had the problem where you run the installation manager, you click next and nothing happens? Or sometimes back on the XP days, you'd click on it and sometimes it would take like a minute to do what it was doing just because it's XP. But there have been problems where people run it, they click next and it doesn't do anything. Or they get these series of pop-ups that come up. And lo and behold, you go, okay, can you open up an HTML file in Internet Explorer? Nope. That's what we're trying to do, basically. So,
does Internet Explorer have to be your default web browser?
It doesn't have to be your default browser. One of those problems, the problem where you click next and nothing happens. There was a case where, again, this is something we tried to reproduce, couldn't reproduce type of thing. But obviously, people install other browsers, Chrome, Safari, whatever. They set that as their default. In that particular case, the guy had Chrome as his default browser, and for whatever reason, that in combination with other things in the operating system caused that problem. And the fix was like a convoluted registry, change a 0 to a 1, and it fixed it. So Internet Explorer doesn't have to be your default browser, but its stability and functionality needs to be there and working. Usually it is, but lots of times there's machines where the install's not working, and we try X, Y, and Z. We try everything under the sun. It's been a week of troubleshooting, and we push back and say, you should re-image your machine, which no one wants to hear, typically. And some of that might be because Internet Explorer is so tied in to Windows, it's easier just to kind of start clean sometimes. Sometimes you can go through the process of resetting Internet Explorer, trying all sorts of fixes to clean that up, but it's just bad. So the short version of that is the operating system is very important. Its stability and functionality and cleanliness and all that stuff is assumed essentially by the installation manager. We assume your operating system's functioning, everything's working. So these are the bullet points I'm going to drill into in a bit of detail, just to summarize things. So again, install, downloading, repairing, modifying, uninstalling. This should kind of be your one-stop shop for installations, for anything you might need to do there. So one very important thing is there's actually two versions of the installation manager. There's a download version and a DVD version. All it really is there's a file that determines that. So when it opens, it knows what to display, but it's easier just to think of it as there's two versions. Which I think I talk about a little bit later, but I'll mention it here. So when you pop in a DVD, you'll notice the first screen you see won't have a download-only option. Versus if you download the installation manager from the customer portal, you have a download-only option. So basically, the installation manager will run thinking it's been downloaded and you need to download, or I'm a DVD, I already have everything I need. So if you're running it, the first page you see, you can quickly identify you can get a status of what you're actually running. Like I said, I'll get into that more. So maybe there's four versions. There's 32-bit DVD, 32-bit download, 64-bit DVD, 64-bit download. The title bar tells you this right away. Again, read the stuff that's in the IM. There's little hints and clues and stuff that is very helpful. So, for example, I might have a slide of it. If you throw in the 32-bit DVD or run the 32-bit downloaded IM on a 64-bit machine, that first option, the individual installation will be grayed out. I've had people not realize that and think they're installing by creating admin images, which doesn't work. So just look in the title bar, it tells you what version you're running. So that's the actual feedback that the IM gives you, some intelligence built into it to know. We actually added that in parentheses. You cannot install a 32-bit version on a 64-bit computer. It used to just be grayed out. So over the past couple of years, we tweak it. We add even more information in there. So that's a clear indicator, to prevent you from starting off wrong. And it's also a service pack specific application, which again, the title bar tells you. So I'm running 2013 SP0, SP1, what have you. We build and we push out a new version of the installation manager for every service pack. So just be aware of that. When you're going into the customer portal and you click on download, you're downloading a copy of the installation manager, whatever service pack you're choosing. So the installation manager itself, the tool, the application, it's built of a bunch of various different components that are worth knowing. So there's the setup exe. So if you pop in the DVD, the installation manager just pops right up. What that's doing is it's kicking off the setup.exe file. So if you've downloaded the installation manager, you can click on that to launch it. If you've popped in the DVD and that Windows window that pops up, you closed, you can browse into the DVD, click on that to run it. We put that in 2010 because it makes things easier. You just go into the root folder and click on setup, whereas prior to that, you had to go into the SLDIM folder, that image on the bottom right, and you had to click on the SLDIM.exe. Setup.exe sounds a little bit easier, more install friendly than, why do I have to run this SLDIM? What is that? But that's actually the installation manager. So the setup exe, when you click on that, kicks off and runs the SLDIM exe. Some other components so in that bottom right picture there, there's the SLDM downloader, there's all these processes. It's just good to kind of know that these are there. The installation manager uses these things, relies on them. So the SLDIM downloader, that's the process that manages the downloading that the installation manager is doing. I think that process runs natively. It doesn't install anything, but you run the IM. If you're downloading, that's running in the background, figuring out stuff. And the SLD check for updates.exe, I'll talk about that later, but that's the process that scans your machine, figures out what service pack you have. Oh, there's a new one available. Let's go download it, all that good stuff. I'll talk about that later. That's where they are. Program files, x86. Everything I should have mentioned too is all the paths I have in here are 64-bit, because I'm assuming hopefully everyone's on 64-bit. If you're not, just drop the x86. It's in the other location. But common files is where that stuff gets loaded. So every time you run the installation manager, it copies stuff to that directory too. So if you're on a brand new machine and you just run an installation manager, that stuff gets copied over there, and it lives there. And we write that information elsewhere as well, but that's the important stuff. And the SLD, BG, DWLD, the SolidWorks background downloader. Anyone use that? Anyone know what it is? We introduced that in 2011. I think that option's on by default, so if you just pop in a DVD and you install and you don't change any of the default settings, that's going to install and enable itself by default. You'll see a little red SolidWorks cube in your taskbar, bottom right of your screen. And it's a background downloader, so I forget what the default setting is, but it's there to periodically ping our download servers and see if there's a new service pack. If there's a new service pack, it'll start downloading it in the background for you, so you don't have to worry about going to check for updates and clicking check and, oh, there's no new version available. So it's a way to kind of be proactive and get new media for you. I always turn it off just because it's annoying in a tech support perspective, but I have a feeling not a lot of people use it, but it's there. And you can turn it off. Like I said, in the installation manager, it's on by default. You can just uncheck that option to not have it be enabled, or if you do have it enabled, you can just right-click on it and say disable, so that it's not there.
You also get updates in the right menu too, right? Or, you know, in SolidWorks, there's that the news or whatever, it pops up and you get an alert that the new version.
Yep, like the RSS feeds that populate there. Yeah, I mean, right. This is just an aid to, so you don't have to worry about using check for updates. It's something that's supposed to aid you. Oh, it's new service packs out. Let's say I was out of the office. I didn't know. Oh, great. I come back. It downloaded SP2 for me without me knowing. Now I can go and create my new image, whatever. Make your life a little bit easier. And so those are the components, the main components that just are important to know about. And log files. These are my bread and butter, our bread and butter in tech support. Every single time you run the IM, we're creating log files. So similar to SolidWorks, every time you run SolidWorks, we're writing to a performance log file. Regardless, you can't turn that off. Same with the IM. Every time you open the IM, we're writing to log files that it's always going to happen. There's always going to be log files. So regardless of what you did, even if you opened it and closed it right away, there's going to be a log file that tells us you did that, which sometimes it's good to know. So in support, we get, oftentimes you've probably seen an install fails. You click on the button to package these up. You send it to support. If there's 10, 15 log files in there, I can tell, oh, he opened the IM and then he closed it. Then he went back. Oh, he did it again. You can kind of get a feel for how people, where the problem might have started, or what kind of problems might have been seen. So we create two log files, the summary IM log and the SLD IM log. Just know that there's two there. You don't necessarily have to read them or anything. That's for us to do. The summary, by its name, it's easier to read. It's a summary of the other one. You can read it, you can sort of understand it. The other one has a lot more data, a lot more stuff that goes over your head. And we also create those 3 logs in that second bullet. A downloader log, a background downloader log, and some XML logs. So let's say you're on a brand new machine, you're on the installation manager, you pop in your serial number, you click next, it does its thing. While it's doing all that, it's creating these download logs, these XML logs, so that it can remember that information. So the next time you open it, it doesn't have to go through and connect to our server and figure out, oh, does this serial number have simulation? Does it have plastics? It stores that stuff there so it can just retrieve it. And those logs get created in a user folder. So if you log into a machine, you're going to have your own set of logs. If someone else logs into that machine, they're going to have their own set of logs. So just know that as well. And again, that's the Windows 7 64-bit or just Windows 7 Vista Windows 8 path of where those logs go. Is anyone still on XP, actually? You are, okay.
Legacy software, we're getting out of it.
Okay. Well, for XP, it's in application data, which you're probably familiar with. C users, all users, application data, blah, 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 blah. It's just a longer path. But the app data, it's in the user's Windows login location. And we started doing this a few releases back. We started organizing it a little bit better. Originally, back in 2008, 2009, you'd go in there and just be logs. Now, they're grouped into subfolders, so you can tell if you run SP0, you got your SP0 log information. And then you run SP1, you got your SP1. So you can pinpoint, if you're troubleshooting, you can go into the exact folder you need to. So in addition to us always creating log files, we can write more information in them if we want to. So if you right-click on the title bar, anywhere in that gray title bar, you right-click, there's a context menu, there's installation logging levels. Low is set by default. That usually gives us everything we need. For whatever reason, you could set it to medium or high. I never tell people to. If we're ever troubleshooting something and the low log doesn't really tell us what we need, we tell people right-click on there again and check the Create a Windows Installer log. That's the completely verbose, giant 30 megabyte text file that has the answer in it somewhere. I'll get into how those play with admin images when I talk about admin images. So again, this stuff that I'm going through here. It's a good kind of background to know the interface, how it works, kind of behind the scenes in a standalone environment before you go into an admin environment, because you can pick it apart and dissect it. So again, right-click on there, you can choose some logging levels. So, like I mentioned earlier, there's multiple versions of the installation manager, but there's a DVD version, there's a download version. So like I said, you pop in the DVD, you have 3 options in your first screen. You don't have a download option because you have the DVD, you have everything you need. Why would you need to download if you have the DVD? You click next. You see the screen, serial number. How many people have SNL versus standalone versus a mixed bag, maybe? Mixed? Mixed. What's that? Network. Okay. If you have a mixed bag, well, we'll talk about that later. Mixed bag and you're doing admin images, you do that in the option editor to differentiate them. But a good rule of thumb is if you do have mixed, if you're standalone, you have a serial number that begins with a 9000 or 0000. That's a standalone serial number, which, one installation. You enter that, the installation manager is going to dictate what that standalone license is entitled to. If you enter an SNL serial number, 9010 or 0010, we kind of open up the installation manager to everything. So with an SNL serial number, I could put in your SNL serial number into my machine, install, doesn't matter because the licensing is on your SNL server. So it doesn't matter if your SNL it doesn't really matter. Anyone could use that to essentially download something or install something. It's the licensing itself that dictates the products that get run. But so essentially, well, I'll get into when I talk about the download stuff. So that's the first screen you see. If you're on SNL and you have SolidWorks seats and you have simulation, don't check both boxes and put in the same serial number. Only do that if you have discrete serial numbers, which some people might have. Might have floating simulation SNL serial number, you might have a SolidWorks one. That's the case where you'd put both of them in. If your SolidWorks SNL has simulation seats added onto it, you just enter the SolidWorks, and the licensing takes care of everything else. And again, there's intelligence built into it to make your life a little bit easier. If you misspell your serial number, you get these warnings that tell you. If you have an extra space or stuff like that, we let you know you entered it wrong. So, and if you have SNL, you can enter, if you have, anyone have the old 0010s serial numbers still, you can enter just the 16 digits and click next, and it'll go to our server, find the last 8, and figure that out for you. But if you have a 9010, you got to enter all 24. So you click next from there, and you see this green bar that doesn't really look like it's doing anything, but it's doing lots of kind of intelligent behind-the-scene checks. It's checking whether your processor matches what we need it to be, your operating system, all that good stuff. So if you can get past the screen, you should be able to technically install SolidWorks on that machine. And the disable internet access option that's highlighted, that's another right-click menu option that's in there. So if you're in a secure location, you don't have access to the internet on that machine, you have the DVD or a full download, you can right-click there, say disable internet access. It'll jump right to the next screen. It won't do those checks. It won't go up to the server and go, oh, you're SolidWorks Pro, so I'm not going to give you routing, that stuff. It'll let you manually choose that stuff. So, like I said, checks the serial number, checks some other things, checks downloader version, updates what it needs to basically to manage your installs. So then you get to this screen. This is the important one, obviously. So the summary screen, like I said, if you are connected to the internet, you put your serial number in there, it checks our servers, it goes, oh, this serial number is entitled to these products, there they are. If you put in SNL, it'll throw everything in there because with SNL, again, the licensing determines what you can actually use. So it just gives you everything and lets the licensing deal with it. Standalone, it's a little bit more discrete. And it detects prerequisites, which is probably the most important thing about the SolidWorks installation, is all of the prerequisites we have. In 2013, there are a handful more, so beware. But again, the installation manager is intelligent. It's supposed to simplify your life. It's supposed to find and detect these things for you, so you don't have to worry about, do I need to go and download these things? What are these stupid things? The installation manager is there to detect that stuff, install it for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So digging into the prerequisites just a little bit, because like I said, they are probably the most important thing of the installation, because if these aren't installed correctly, SolidWorks won't install correctly. SolidWorks depends on these things for its various features to work properly. Yes, question?
Well, the 2013 version tell you when something's not working correctly.
No. Like a prerequisite, for example?
Well,
No.
yeah, because I ran into a situation where I could not get SolidWorks to install on the computer.
Yep.
And by reading Google, I found that .NET framework was failing. We had one component in it that was failing, causing SolidWorks not to install. Is there a
Right.
way of determining if a prerequisite is failing?
is on there and it's working? The short answer is no. Again, that's something the installation manager, unfortunately, it lacks right now and kind of assumes. If it detects that those things are already on there, it assumes they're working correctly, unfortunately. That's one of the things, that's like my number one enhancement nudge to development is we need in that right click menu, wherever, a separate tool that you can run that checks the integrity of these things. Whether it be, I don't know, development can come up with something like that, but something that, we use .NET Framework 4.0. Let's develop some little script that uses that component in terms of how we use it to make sure it works. Something simple or, some kind of check, but the short answer is no, unfortunately. But, so, like I said, 2013, there's a bunch of new prerequisites. So bonjour, hello, is the first new one. You actually don't need that for SolidWorks to run, but we call it a prerequisite because the PhotoView 360 network render client utility uses that, but SolidWorks doesn't. So, but just install it. It's a couple megabytes. It's a prerequisite. Just be aware that we're installing that now. So if you install on a machine and one of your users says, what is this bonjour thing that's on my machine? You can say, oh, SolidWorks uses that now in 2013. They may go there and uninstall it. And if they tell you PhotoView rendering's not working, it might be that. But if they do uninstall it, it shouldn't cause SolidWorks to stop working. .NET Framework 4. So in 2013, we now installed .NET Framework 4. Back in the XP days, we used to install 2, and then we installed 3, and then Vista and Windows 7 happily included that in the operating system, so we didn't have to worry about that mess. And now we're installing .NET 4 in 2013. I guess the sort of good news for anyone who's adventurous enough to upgrade to Windows 8 is it's already in there. 4.5 is actually in there, so it wouldn't install .NET 4. But Windows 7, we're going to install that. So I'm expecting things to happen once more people start upgrading. But it's there. It's a new one. It's an important one. And it actually installs 2 things. So if you go into programs and features, you'll see a .NET client profile, and you'll see a .NET extended. That's 2 things that are working in tandem. I don't know why they're split into 2 things, to confuse things, I guess, to make your lives more crazy, but just be aware of that. And another big one is Visual Basic for Application 7.1. So prior to 2013, when we still supported XP, the VB stuff that we do, so equations, anytime you enter an equation, it's solving those equations in VB. So in XP, it did that with some DLLs that are already on the machine. When we dropped support for XP, that allowed us to take full advantage of Windows' 64-bit VB stuff that we were lagging behind because of our support for XP. So now we actually install Visual Basic components, and they don't show up on your machine in programs and features. So chances are these shouldn't cause a problem when they install, but who knows? 2013 is still early in its life, so down the road they may, but you can't uninstall them from programs and features. All it does is it copies a DLL, like a single DLL to your installation, to your program files. You can only really get rid of it with an MSI command. I don't know why Microsoft doesn't just throw it into Windows. It's a DLL, but just be aware of it. It's something new in 2013. We're installing it. Anyone install in other languages besides English? Deploy to other sites, other countries? Okay, because in that case we install either 2 of them or 3 of them, which complicates things even more. But since you guys are just in English, we actually installed 2. as opposed to 3. And Visual C++ 2010 is new in 2013. So it's a 32-bit and a 64-bit. You need both of them if you're on 64-bit. If you're on 32-bit, you just need 32-bit. So that's all the new stuff in 2013 that we now have to be aware of, potentially manage. But again, the installation manager should handle all that stuff for us. So the other older ones that have been around in 2012, all this good stuff, Office 2003 web components, which DriveWorks Express uses. So if you uninstall it, DriveWorks Express won't work. Won't shut down SolidWorks. The Microsoft Visual Studio 2005 Remote Debugger Lite, 64-bit specific prerequisite, we install that. We installed 2005 and 2008 Visual C++ redistributables. All these things that we don't want you to worry about having to know if they're on or not. The installation manager is supposed to take care of these things. Yes, there can be problems with them, but in the perfect world, there isn't, and the installation manager handles all that for you. So now in 2013, there's a total, if you're on a 64 machine, there's 6 of those things that are getting installed. I haven't added these up in a while, but there's like 10 or 11 or 12 things now. One pain point in 2012 or even in 2011 was this thing called Visual Studio 2005 Tools for Applications. Doesn't install very well lots of times and can cause SolidWorks not to install. It's actually an option now in 2013. So if you ever had any installation problems in 2012 where you heard back from support that it was that thing, or you monkeyed around with uninstalling, reinstalling that thing to try to fix things, or you went into the registry and tried to fix some of its registry keys, now in 2013 you don't even have to install it. And to not uninstall it, it's actually, I think I have a better picture of it later. It's nested in the summary page of the IM. So the summary page shows, your SolidWorks products, all your add-ins, all that stuff. If you click on change, you can uncheck stuff you don't want to install. It's nested under the SolidWorks portion of that. So if you expand SolidWorks and you go all the way to the bottom, manuals, help files, Visual Studio Tools, so you can just uncheck it. When would you need it, you might ask? If you're running macros, if you guys use macros, stuff like that, you're going to need that. Yeah, so like I said, so you get to the summary page, you want to uncheck that, you click on change, you come here, you expand SolidWorks, you can uncheck Visual Studio Tools, Visual Studio Tools, excuse me. If you connect it without the internet and you just click next, it doesn't auto-populate that product selection screen, but it gives you that window on the right where you can choose, oh, I know I have a SolidWorks Professional serial number, so I'm going to choose the SolidWorks Professional option, and it'll give me the professional stuff. You could go, oh, I have a SolidWorks Standard serial number, but I'm going to choose Premium. Fine, it'll install everything, but then you're going to have to go and activate or connect to the licensing, and some stuff's not going to work. But it'll install it, it'll just be on your hard disk. You just won't be able to use it. So the next thing, just going back a step here to this screenshot of the IM. So products, download options, install location toolbox. So after product selection is download options. For an individual installation from a DVD, you click here. Here's where you can turn the background downloader on and off. It's on by default. That's if you don't want it to be there and you don't want to have to worry about going there and disabling it, check it there.
Is there any advantage to running it?
No, other than you not having to remember to go download a new service pack, it does it for you. The longer you've been doing this, you probably get in a routine of, I know service pack whenever is coming out whenever, so I'm going to plan to go and download it on this day. In those cases, you don't need it, I would say. But it's there. But again, a theme here is dig into all these various pages, click on these options and see what's there. Because, I mean, we give you default selections and we install default things, but that's not necessarily what you want for your environment. From my experience, I have a feeling lots of people just click next, 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 and install, and they run it, and down the road they might have a problem. But go in there, tailor the installation to yourself. I always recommend that you specify a unique location, whether you're creating an admin image, whether you're doing an individual install, which we're still on here. Don't install to just C program file SolidWorks Corp, because chances are you're going to install a new version at some point. That location might still exist if you don't clean it up and you get SolidWorks 1 and SolidWorks 3 and SolidWorks 4 all in parentheses. You shouldn't have problems when that's the case, but I've seen problems with that where SolidWorks version 2011 knows to go into program file SolidWorks Corp, but now it sees 4 SolidWorks folders in there and stuff can get messed around with. So always just specify. So when SolidWorks 2013 came out, I clicked browse. I said, oh, I'm going to call this SolidWorks 2013. So now I know that's my 2013 installation folder. Ideally, we like you to have one version installed at a time, but for me, I have 2, 3, 4 versions. How many people run multiple versions versus just a single version? So this is more for the people that run multiple versions, but it's just a good habit to get into. It takes 2 seconds to do. Organizes your systems a little bit better. And you can change the media location. So if you copied the DVD to some network share, or you downloaded to a network share and you're just installing on one machine, you can go here and say, oh, I want to go and install it from here. Yep.
I recommend uninstalling a previous version first before installing the one.
No,
Just do the other.
because the upgrade, what it's going to do is uninstall kind of anyway and install the new one. Those types of things is more personal preference. Some people are rigid in what they do or like to do things a certain way. So yeah, there's no problem doing it one way or the other. But like I said, lots of people like to clean their machine sometimes. They like to go into the registry, delete stuff, which you shouldn't necessarily have to do, but people like to do it. Go into the registry, delete stuff, delete folders, then do a clean install, which is perfectly fine, but you don't have to. So the next tiered page of the IM is the toolbox whole wizard options. Again, here, the default options, it creates a new toolbox. Again, change the name, specify a network share that everyone's going to use. It's not a good habit to have C SolidWorks data 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your machine. It's just copying lots and lots of files typically. And you can also choose if you have an existing toolbox, you can browse to it, so you don't have to create a new one. You don't have to create an extra gig of stuff. It'll just upgrade that old stuff. In 2012, I should have mentioned in the previous slide, you can actually, in 2012, we implemented the ability to only install certain standards, toolbox standards, because if you're not designing stuff for German customers or you're not in Germany, do you need the DIN standard? Maybe not, so why install it? Make your life a little bit easier. So in 2012, we implemented that ability, uncheck those standards. That'll make your toolbox install a lot smaller, make the install faster, all that sort of good stuff. And then your install is complete. By default, we have the show me what's new checkbox, which I wish we didn't have by default because it's annoying. They always have to uncheck it, or at least I do. But it's always a good idea to read the what's new. And then the customer experience program. I think by default now it's set to remind me later. I'm not actually sure when we remind you later, but apparently we do. It's always a good idea just to choose yes. If anyone's interested in using the CAD admin dashboard, which is new in 2013 as well, that has to be set to yes for it to work. If you set to no, or you do choose yes and you want to turn it off later, you can do that in system options. It's just an option, but we ask you if you want to do it here or not first. So again, what's the difference between the two IMs? There's download, there's a DVD. For downloads, you get a download only option. So when you're downloading the IM, how many people go to the customer portal to download stuff versus DVD? Or do you pop in the DVD and you do, oh, it goes, oh, there's a new version, and you click next and downloads another version of the IM, blah, 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 all that nonsense. I always go to the customer portal myself. On my machines, I like to go through a customer experience type of thing. I go to the customer portal, I download the IM. I try to, put myself in someone's shoes who's actually doing the same thing. I download it myself. We do have media on shares that I could just go and run, but I like to download myself, see if I'm going to run into any bugs so that I can proactively help you guys out, that sort of thing. But here, so when you log in, you click on one of those hyperlinks, you're downloading the installation manager. That downloads to your machine, you run that, then you start managing your things. If you use IE, anyone use IE as their default browser? We do internally. Never click run if you do that, because what it does is it downloads the installation manager to your Internet Explorer temporary files, and if you open it up and you're doing stuff and you close it down and you don't go back to it right away and you have system maintenance set up or whatnot, it will delete that and you're going to have to download it again. So just save it so that it doesn't get deleted by accident. What else here? Yeah, so when you download it, you download the executable, SolidWorks setup executable. You run that, it extracts the setup exe and the SLDIM folder. So that's the application, that's the installation manager. You had a question? Someone had a question?
I've got one. Can you go back a slide or two about the toolbox?
Yep. Right here?
We've got a highly customized toolbox. All of our part members and all of that, we love it.
Yep.
So I see it looks like you're recommending, hey, don't worry about deleting your old version of SolidWorks, just but install a new one or upgrade. You're saying, I hear you saying it doesn't really matter. Like you said, there are all kinds of people out there that are dogmatic. They're saying, oh, never ever upgrade, always install fresh and clean,
Right.
and delete the old one. It's like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's part of the reason why I'm here.
Okay.
To find out
Yep.
what's the recommendation from SolidWorks. I'm hoping that it shouldn't matter, but I've got an option to do it one way or the other, and I'm going to have a good result either way.
Yep.
The toolbox has some quirks.
Yep.
And 2012 in particular was very careful. We didn't install 2012 for a long time because of the issue
Yep.
with customized toolboxes.
Right.
All right, so what I see on here is you're saying specify a unique location for this new installation.
This is for an individual installation as well still. So this portion of the things is pretending you're popping the DVD and you're going through just installing on your own machine as a self-contained user,
Okay.
creating your own toolbox essentially.
Okay, for our network
Yep.
situation, we've got a toolbox out there on the network.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go back on Thursday and install 2013.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend I do?
I'll show you that when I'm guessing you're going to be doing an admin image. Or,
I've never done that
Okay.
because I've been leery of it. I've had a lot of people tell me about the problems they had with it.
okay. Well, I'll talk about it when I get to the admin image stuff, but if you were to do it here as like an individual installation of SolidWorks, you would just, if you have an existing one, your 2012, you'd obviously back it up, I would think, before you go to upgrade the new versions. Just make a backup of it, store it somewhere. But there you'd browse, you'd click browse, and you just enter your network path to your toolbox, whatever it is,
Okay.
whack, SolidWorks, toolbox, whatever. You just click back to summary and click next. So that the installation is going to know, oh, I need to go look there for toolbox, check what version it is, do I need to update it, so it won't install anything locally. Now, I'll talk more about when I get to the admin image stuff, and or we can talk after because it can be a longer conversation sometimes, but Yeah, I mean, if you're doing an individual installation, that's where you'd specify your network toolbox or your standalone personal toolbox. I'll get to the admin image stuff later. So again, you download the installation manager, you run it. You'll see the download only option. You won't see this if you pop in the DVD because you have everything, right? So let's say you don't have the DVD and you want everything. So you download the installation manager, you can click on the download only option, and you can download essentially a full copy of that service pack's DVD. So in this case, the SP1 DVD. And you can take that and move it wherever you want. You can do whatever you want with it, share it. And that'll download the big 6 gig file of SolidWorks. Now it's 5.8 gigabytes in 2013. So obviously you need internet access. It's a method for sharing media. So it's probably not a good habit to have. If you don't have someone managing your installations, you got 3-4 guys and they're each downloading their own versions and they're not necessarily sharing it with other people. They got all this junk. If one person goes and does download only, he can say, I downloaded everything, put it up on the network, here it is, everyone you can go install from here. And the options of the download options. So if you click on the change hyperlink, you see all this stuff. So I guess the important thing here is there's 2 things. By default, the option speed up downloads by using more network bandwidth, that's on by default. You can toggle that on and off. What that basically does is when it's on, it does kind of more of like a torrent type download. It downloads 4 or 5 files at once, pieces of them, and then packages them all together at the end. If you uncheck that, it's going to download this toolbox portion of the install, then the next one, then SolidWorks Explorer, then this, then that. So if you are having download problems because it uses more bandwidth, uncheck that to kind of release the or decrease the load on the network a little bit. You might have better luck. And manual download. So for the people that have been using SolidWorks for years, you used to go to the customer portal, you used to click on this thing, which was the manual download, and you have a big page of every file you download. That's how you do it now. We recommend, and if you are going to do that, which we don't want you to do, but we give you the option, you check that conduct manual download there, and you click back to summary, and that screenshot on the right is what you see. So it says click here for manual downloads. When you click on that link, it opens up that same old web page with all the files, and you go and you click on one, you download it, you save it. You click on the other one, you download, you save it. Download those all to the same location. Keep the IM open while you're doing all that. Go back to the IM. Once everything's all downloaded, you click next, and it's going to go in to that location, extract everything, and package it how the installation manager needs it to be packaged to install. So, like I said, the old school way, we don't want you to do it because there's now in 2013, if you download everything, there's 70 files you have to download. Why do you want to waste your time doing that? Just let the installation manager download it in one shot for you. I say 70 because that's all the languages as well, which none of you guys have multiple languages, so you don't need Portuguese and Russian. So just English is still 57 files, though. That's still a lot of files to go and grab. So don't do manual download unless you are having real problems downloading. You uncheck that speed up downloads option, still timing out, still not downloading. Maybe try manual download then. You can, then you're really in control. You're saying, okay, I want to download this file. I know how big it is. I can sit there and see if it's going to bomb out. If it does, okay, maybe I need to contact IT and say, I'm downloading a 100 megabyte file. Why can't I download this? But typically you shouldn't have to ever go here because you can start downloading these files. If you mix these with stuff that's already been downloaded, it just complicates things. So don't really ever go here unless maybe you're contacting support and we recommend it, as in the case of, oh, can't download, okay, let's try this and see what happens, just as a troubleshooting type of step. So like I said, manually download, you download those 57 or 70 files to one location, you click next. It's going to go and extract all those and package them up like it needs to. And then it's complete. And it says, again, this is a manual download, which I'm just showing as much as I can here. It tells you, again, read the IM. There's a lot of good info in there. It's there to guide you as kind of a wizard for how to use the tool. So it says, go to that location and run the setup exe to initiate that install. Speed things up a little here. So again, summary page, you click on change. I like to highlight kind of just the download sizes to show the differences. So installation size versus download size. The download is obviously smaller because it's compacted. When we're downloading, we're extracting it too as part of that complete process. So you're downloading a 2.8 gigabytes worth of data, but once we extract all that, it grows. I sort of got into all this, blah, blah, blah. I mean, download only is your best bet. If you're creating admin images, you want to create an admin image with everything, excuse me. So if you want SP4, SP5, download the IM, download only, download it. Okay, I know I have everything. I know I'm not missing standard for Toolbox. I know I'm not missing something. I have everything. And that way, we're downloading all the prerequisites as well. Because, like I said, the installation manager is intelligent. If you run it on a machine that's already had SolidWorks installed or has some of those prerequisites on there, and you don't choose download only, and you kind of just do next, it's going to go, oh, this machine already has .NET 4, so I'm not going to worry downloading that. And if you try to create an image of that, it's going to want to download more stuff. So download only is probably, for all of you guys, is going to be the best bet. And again, installation complete, you choose yes. So we've covered 3 of those things. Let's get to the meat of the good stuff that you guys are going to care about. So that's kind of the installation manager. That's what it's doing. That's the step-by-step process for how the installation works and how it's managing things. So for admin images, which is the next big thing that it does. What's nice is I think we implement this in 2011, I want to say, or 2012. You can now create 32-bit and 64-bit images from the same machine, regardless of what operating system it is. Prior to that, you had to run the 32-bit IM on a 32-bit machine to create a 32-bit image. You had to run the 64-bit IM on a 64-bit machine to create a 64-bit image, which you may or may not have had. If you're like a cat admin guy, you're on the server, you want to create the image on the server, that server is a 64-bit machine. I don't have a 32-bit machine to create my 32-bit image for my few guys who do have a 32-bit image. Now you can create them both, regardless of the OS. So again, similar, you choose the admin image. Choose that first option if you're creating a brand new image. We've simplified things a lot here. Prior versions of the installation manager, we actually stepped through a lot of that stuff I previously showed, where you choose what you want to install, you choose your toolbox location, all that stuff. Now we just say, oh, I'm creating an image. Here's my products. If you enter an SNL, like I said, it's going to give you everything. You specify where you want to create that image, and you say create. And there you go. That's the admin image creation process in the installation manager. You choose admin image, enter your serial number, specify where you want it, and say create. It's a lot of data if you choose both 32-bit and 64-bit options. It's 13 gigs of disk space, so just be aware that it is writing a lot of stuff. So don't do it in the middle of the day when people are accessing some network share that you might be creating this on. It might bog things down a little bit. And when it's done creating the image, you get this. And now we walk you right into customizing that image. So you click on the Customize Image button, and you get the option editor. So this is, I forget when, we've had this for years, but this new interface came a few years ago to help simplify, manage, customize your deployment to all your machines. So you create your image, the upper right Windows Explorer picture. I've created an image in a folder called Admin Images, subfolder 2013, subfolder SP1. This is the root of that admin image. I created a 32-bit and a 64-bit. The option editor executable is in that root directory. And here's where you can, if you have an SNL and you have some standalone, create a group. Here's my standalone guys. Here's my network guys. You enter your standalone serial number for your standalone guys, your network for your network. If you have guys you know don't need routing, or you have premium, you have one routing guy, you can create a machine or a group called routing, and choose to install routing to that guy, create another group for everyone else where you don't even install routing if you want to be that managerial, so to speak. So what's new in 2013 is this executable start SW install.exe. It's a push install. So in XP days, in the older version of the option editor, you could say, oh, I want to deploy this, I want to install this administrative image as with admin credentials. So my users are restricted, they don't have admin rights, you need to be an admin to install SolidWorks. So you could say, oh, I want to install it as an admin, here's my admin username and password, good to go. When Vista came out, we couldn't do that anymore. So you had to be an admin to install, period. So with 2013, we have this new functionality called push install where you can now do that again. And what's nice about it is it's completely silent. I'll talk a little bit more about it as we go here. So now that we have the push install, we still have the old method, which has been there for the past couple of years, which is deploy manually. So create your admin image, you go in here, you set up all your options, and then if you, I think I have some pictures of here. Well, I'll step into it. So it should be fairly easy to kind of figure out how this works. You click on the little pencil, that brings you into the settings where you can change things here. You can add your serial numbers, create your groups, choose what kind of options you want, all that good stuff. Again, we're always creating log files, so even if you are creating an admin image, deploying that out, the installation manager is being used to do that installation on the client, so it's creating those log files on the local machine in that user's folder regardless, but in the option editor, as kind of the CAD admin, you can choose to create a diagnostic log if you want, so that log files get written in the images location. So if guy comes and runs to you and says, install didn't work, you can go to log file, grab it quickly, send it to support, or troubleshoot it if you want to give that a go. You can choose to run batch file scripts before or after. So at the CAD admin boot camp on Sunday, we had a question saying, is enterprise PDM in the installation manager these days? Nope. But you could create an administrative image of EPDM. You could create a custom batch file script and say, run that after the SolidWorks installation to kind of package it together, if you choose to use our administrative image functionality. Or you have Mastercam, you have some third-party add-in, you want to install that right after SolidWorks, you can kick that off. So deploy manually, and you click on that, you get this screen, has a summary of your settings that you chose in the setup page on the right, and you click on the send email button, and again, read the IM. A shared network path is required, blah, blah, blah. So you browse to where your images that you have shared that your clients are going to connect to, you click OK, and it's going to generate an email that you send out to everyone and say, that says, go here and run this HTA file to initiate the install. Again, it's a manual method. I just want to push SolidWorks out without having my engineers have to go into their Outlook and they might miss the email, all that nonsense. So, in 2013, we have push install. So what's nice about this is you control when it's going to install. So you want to install it now, you want to install it later. If you click later, you specify time. Do I want to install or upgrade? Do I want to uninstall 2013 first? This unfortunately won't detect any existing versions that are on there and yank them off. This is kind of moving forward type of technology. So do I want to uninstall 2013? Do I want to reboot the computer before I kick off the install? You can check that option. So if this machine's been running all day and God knows what the guy's been doing, I want to make sure Windows is in a clean state. I'll reboot before I do the install. And here's where you enter your credentials as an admin to push this install to someone who doesn't. The key thing there is you have to be on a domain for it to work. If you're not on a domain, that won't work. So that's the one caveat. And I'll get to you in a second. And you have to deploy this from a Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows Server 2008, or Windows Server 2008 R2 machine. If you try to do this from an XP machine, XP doesn't have the functionality to do that. Because essentially behind the scenes what it's doing is it's creating a task, a Windows task, on that client machine that says, run my start SolidWorks exe to initiate the install. Windows XP can't hook into a client machine and create a task. Only that was a new API that Vista introduced that we now take advantage of. And it's completely silent. So the first time I messed around with this, it's not working. You know, I click deploy. I know I'm connecting to the machine right next to me. How come it's not working? What it actually does is it's completely silent. There's no UI. If you actually open up Task Manager, you'll see that the start SW install exe runs the SLDIM exe, and the MSI exec.exe is also running, and it's chugging away. It's installing. So stuff's gonna pop after, you know, however good your machine is. After half an hour, the SolidWorks icon's gonna pop up on the desktop. So it's completely silent. The user wouldn't know what's going on. They might say, oh, how come SolidWorks icons are popping up on my machine? But you'd obviously notify them, hey, I'm going to deploy SolidWorks at this day at this time. Be aware, it's going to be silent if you choose this option. Don't shut down your computer, all that good stuff. But that's a nice thing. They don't have to go and click and run the HTA file and see the installation manager, and they can cancel it if they wanted to. Now with this push method, it's silent, it's hands off. You can deploy it as an admin. You can choose when you want to do it. There's a couple caveats about the time-related stuff, which are in our knowledge base, rather than explain it here because it is confusing to understand. It's better to read it. But essentially, if you're let's put it this way: would anyone be deploying to different time zones? Okay, because that's where it becomes an issue. So you won't have to worry about that, because it takes the time of the machine that's pushing this and then it uses that on the client. So if you're crossing time zones, it may ignore it, type of thing, and you'd have to do it again. But none of you guys are in that scenario. So the other thing that's nice is for both the manual and push methods, it gives you a status. So with the manual method, it tells me, oh, this machine's installing. Good to know if I want to just check, you know. If I choose to install this later, I should mention actually, the little green arrows next to status, that's actually a refresh button, so you click on it to update the status. So it gives you all these different types of statuses, which are important to know if you want to manage these things. So installing, if it's successful, successful. If it failed, it tells you connection failed. You might see that the first time you try to do this if you are thinking about trying this method. Again, Actually, you'll see the connection failed right away if you try to run this, deploy it from an XP machine. Took me forever to figure that out. I was like, connecting right here, how come it's failing? Oh, just a limitation. Install failed, what's nice about that, it's a hyperlink that will, if you click on it, it'll open up a log directly from that machine. So you don't even have to worry about, well, where did it create that log? Where's my image? Just click on the hyperlink, it'll open it up. Or if it opens it up, you can at least then save it, send it off to support. You don't have to worry about where do I have to go hunting for that. So that's the image creation process. Server products, this is quick stuff. I mean, these are small applications, but again, the installation manager manages these things. This is how you install them. This is how we prefer you install these things, as opposed to running the MSI file directly. Use the IM. You can install the SNL manager, the workgroup vault. Again, it does the same kind of system checks. It'll install what it needs to. Upgrade installation, so this is check for updates. This gets installed on every machine unless you deploy it with an admin image. But check for updates is kind of a separate version of the installation manager. Notice it doesn't have a version in the title bar, but its sole purpose is to go and ping our server and see if there's a new service pack and detect that. And if it does, it'll download it for you and kick that off automatically. And there's several ways you can access it in SolidWorks directly. The help drop-down menu, there's check for updates. It's in your start menu. So again, if you're an individual install, I own a seat of SolidWorks. I installed it. I want to download the new service pack. I do check for updates. I download the new IM, which check for updates does for me. I click next. It detects what I already have on my machine. It detects my serial number. It detects I already have my prerequisites. I don't have to worry about, do I need all this stuff? It just does it for me. And it goes, oh, here you need 233 megabytes to do your upgrade. And you download, you install. Important thing to note, as of SolidWorks 2011 SP0, you do not need access to the source media that you originally installed with to upgrade. So let's say you had a 2013 SP0 DVD, you installed that, SP2 comes out next week, you don't have your DVD in your drive, you go and you download it, it'll upgrade and install. That was an improvement, enhancement we made in 2011 so that we didn't have to require. Prior to that, you get the message saying, cannot access or need access to source files, and you have to go and find your DVD, point to it. There are rare cases where you still need to do that, but in almost all cases you don't anymore, so that's nice. Upgrading an admin image. So you create the admin image, you create your SP0 admin image, SP2 comes out, you go to the customer portal, you download SP2 IM, you click on the download only option, you download everything you need. Again, admin image, you want to have everything just to be safe. You launch that installation manager, you click admin image, you click create new image from existing image. Because you've already set up your option editor with all your customizations, right? So if you choose that option, it's going to carry over all those options, which are in XML files. It's going to copy that over to your new image so you don't have to redo that. Nothing's changed except, oh, it's just a newer service pack of SolidWorks. Choose that option, click browse, browse to your SP0 image. The installation manager is going to know to read that information, copy it over, manage everything for you. Oops. So a couple more things. Modify install. So this is for individual installations only. If you deploy an admin image, users who have been installed from an admin image can't modify it. They can't go into programs and features and click modify and go, I want routing or I want this or that. They can only uninstall from programs and features. So modify, if you did an individual install, I forgot to install whatever, some toolbox standard, go back, check it, modify it, install it, add it. Or I accidentally uninstalled .NET 4, or I accidentally uninstalled some prerequisite that, by mistake, whatever. In that case, you go back to modify, the IM would go, oh, I don't see that anymore, I need to install it. A repair wouldn't do that. A repair only repairs the SolidWorks stuff. SolidWorks DLLs, the SolidWorks installation folder. While modify detects prerequisites. As I mentioned. So repair, again, individual installation only option. People deploy with an admin image won't be able to repair. They won't be able to click on change to repair. The way to repair an admin image installation is to just redeploy it. So again, if there's a problem with your install, you installed SolidWorks, it's working fine. Something happened, you crashed, all of a sudden you can't start up SolidWorks or some weird behavior's going on. Run a repair, see what happens, it might fix the problem. And you can choose what you want to repair. So when you go into programs and features and you click on change, you choose the repair option. I know SolidWorks isn't working, why am I going to bother repairing eDrawings and SolidWorks Explorer? It's just going to take more time. Let me just repair SolidWorks. So like I said, if you're modifying or repairing an admin image, let's say I created my image, but for my this one group I created, I forgot to deploy routing for these guys. So I just open up my option editor, I go to my group, I click on 32-bit or 64-bit, I click on the pencil, and I just check routing. I click OK. If you did the manual method, tell the guy to run the HTA file again. If you did the push method, just push it again. And it'll modify that install add routing. Or a repair, you're not making any changes. You're just, oh, there's a problem with this guy's machine. Tell him to run the HTA again, push it again to repair. And the IM also allows you to uninstall. So in 2012, which I'll get into, we added that advanced options button at the bottom. So if you're uninstalling, whether it's individual install or admin image, you go to programs and features, you click on uninstall, this pops up. Again, you can choose, I just want to get rid of eDrawings, I want to get rid of everything. You can choose what you want. If you click on the advanced options, which we implemented in 2012, you can finally do some more cleanliness, clean types of things. You can wipe out the registry keys, and when you check those boxes, that box at the bottom will populate with more things and tell you exactly what it's deleting. So if you choose registry entries and you uninstall and you go into the registry and why are there still some things, look in that box, it tells you what it's deleting. It's not deleting everything, it's deleting kind of the main stuff. You can choose to delete your download files, all that good stuff. And what's nice is in the option editor, as of 2012, you can specify those options as well. So if you choose the upgrade option, so for example, you guys you have 2012 installed, you download, you create your 2013 admin image, you want to upgrade all your machines from 2012 to 2013. There is actually a little bug with this, I believe. I don't know if it's fixed or not. There's a bug where if you have to choose create major version, new major version to get those options. If you choose upgrade an existing, you can't choose to clean the registry. It'll just use what's there and upgrade the installation. If you choose new major version, then you can say, oh, I want to do some more cleanliness and then do the 2013 install. Or you could choose to do that outside of the option editor. We just added it in there because people like to do that. So it gives you a little bit more automation. You don't have to worry about doing that on your own. Question? No?
That's how you recommend is selecting all those.
I wouldn't. I would recommend, see, that's the default. See, just the programs, files, and folders is checked. It's grayed out. That's what, by default, we select. That's what I'd recommend. If you choose registry keys, people are going to lose any customizations they've done, any custom paths that they've specified to network shares for templates and all that sort of stuff. Usually, most people want to keep that. The registry is one of those things that is kind of a mess. Windows is the only operating system that uses the registry. Others don't, but it's a Windows thing. Got to deal with it. Most people like to keep their customization, so that's why we previously, or by default, don't remove the registry, because you shouldn't ever have to worry about messing around in there. It should be fine. It has your customization set that you want. You just want the new version. You want the new version to carry over your old stuff. But if you want to be clean, you can choose that. If you have kind of a company-wide registry file that you've set up on some other machine, you've stored somewhere, in the client options, you can say, I think I show it there at the bottom. You can choose the option, use a settings file, export it from Copy Settings Wizard. So if you did want to do a more clean type of install, you could choose, yep, delete the registry keys, but then reapply my reg setting. Might clean up any nonsense that might be going on in there.
If you do the push and you choose to reboot their machine, does it not do it until they do a reboot, or is it actually going to reboot them if they're at?
Let me go back to it. That's a good question, though, because there's more to the task that we create. So if you choose reboot automatically and you push, what happens when you push is a message pops up and it says SolidWorks installation will start in 5 minutes, or click OK to install it now. If you click OK, then it starts. This is where it took me a while to figure out, because I clicked OK and I was like, well, nothing's happening. Well, in the background, it was actually installing. If the guy's not at the machine to see that, obviously, after 5 minutes, it's gonna do its thing. So basically, the task will do it after 5 minutes, or it'll do it after a reboot. So if you pushed, and in that 5 minute span, the guy rebooted his machine, the task is going to detect that, and it's going to want to install right after that reboot. If you choose that option, I actually don't know what it does. I'm guessing it will, that message might pop up, and if you wait the 5 minutes, it might, I'm thinking it might restart the computer and initiate the install. I actually haven't tested that, so I don't know, to be honest. My bet is it does pop up some kind of message to let the guy know, hey, the install is I'm gonna reboot your machine to do an install or something like that. But if you don't choose that, a reboot of the machine will still trigger the push to kick off. If you're in a different time zone and it got into that situation, an install might kick it off, or if they rebooted themselves, that type of thing. So that's kind of the IM, almost every page option in it. There's a lot of stuff in there. So in conclusion, it's meant to kind of simplify your life. You don't have to worry about what prerequisites do I need. It downloads everything you need. It installs what you need. It's smart enough to know I already have this. My download should be smaller, all those sorts of things. And the option editors are our SCCM, our application deployment type of application to help you guys out a little bit more. So resources, not all this information, but resources on installation in general, the installation manager, all that sort of stuff. There's tons of places you can go. You can go to help.solidworks.com, it's free. Click on 2013, click on installation, mysolidworks.com, which we are releasing public beta right now you can go to, search for install related stuff. Learning resources, this is usually where I go. If there's ever some installation thing I just don't remember, I go to solidworks.com, I go to support, I click on administrative guides, and I click on the install and administration guide. It's a big 150-page PDF of step-by-step installation related stuff. It has sample command line scripts, all that sort of good stuff. I always go there just by habit. And the IM itself. So if at any time you're in the IM and not really sure you're stuck, click on the help button. That'll open up the help file just as an option as well. So that's the IM. Hopefully there was some admin image related stuff that you got that maybe might not have gotten in the other ones. I just wanted to cover everything in the installation manager. Because from my side, I see both cases. Yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And that's it. Or you can come grab me in the booth. I'll be here all day tomorrow in the booth.
Just one quick
Yep.
question. If I need to make a change, like for instance, I selected no to the customer experience question at the end,
Mhm.
and I want to take it down to the dashboard, I can go ahead and just change and then go back and undo the.
Yep, you could. I mean, if it was like a company-wide thing that you chose no by mistake, that's an option in the option editor. It's towards the bottom. Basically, all those various pages of things you can check, uncheck that I showed for individual installs, all that stuff's in the option editor. You just got to expand stuff and click on it. But that's one. So if you created the image, you deployed it with that set to no, and you said, "Ah, crap," go into your option editor, click edit, click the option, redeploy it out to everyone, or just tell everyone go into system options and turn it on. That might be easier than.
Run that for me to be able to see their machine on that dashboard.
Yeah, that option has to be on, because, like I said, every time you launch SolidWorks, we're always writing to the performance log. When you turn that option on, that says, okay, you can send it to SolidWorks so they can parse it, look for trends, which we do anyway for crash-related stuff, and so that we can parse it and spit it out to you in the CAD admin dashboard. If you say no, then we're not getting that information. Yep. Front row first, yeah.
I guess what I'm looking for is just a very short answer to why you would do an administrative image as opposed to installing it individually. I have a small number of ACs.
Mhm.
Just a brand new image. Let people know they go location, they install it. It's often asked, well, why don't I just go to the customer portal and just download my own?
Mhm. But you're like the CAD admin guy, right?
Yeah.
So as a way of kind of organizing your software deployment as a company, it's a good idea for you to control that stuff. Because who knows what they might install, what they might forget to install. That just increases the chance of an install failing that you're going to have to then fix. If everyone's having a common install, you can control that, or you can control it in the option editor. You can say, I want this guy to have this, I want this guy to have that. You don't have to worry about guys clogging their hard drives with downloaded files that they may or may not know what to do with, that they might delete, which if they run into a problem, they might download it again and just waste time monkeying around with the install when you can do it correctly and install it on their machine. I mean, one of our guys always says, if you have more than 2 machines, do an admin image. Just because you set it up once and you click yes to install, or you click OK to install, versus I run the IM, I put in my serial number, I click next, I choose my things, I change my install path, I click next, and whereas in the admin image, you do that once and you just install it. So less chance of error if you do an admin image. If you do individual, oh, I forgot to change the install path. I want to get into the habit of installing to C program file SolidWorks 2013. I forgot to do it on one machine. In order to change that, for everyone to be consistent, you'd have to uninstall and then reinstall. If you do that in the option editor, everyone gets the same thing. So it's if you want to control things, get in the habit of controlling things, making sure people have the same things. You want to be proactive and manage any installation problems that might happen. You can do all that stuff with the admin image versus you're running around this guy, oh yeah, go ahead and download and install for yourself. If he runs into a problem, you're gonna have to remember where to go get the log files. He's gonna have to remember where they are, all that stuff. It's just a more organized, central way for someone who's gonna take on the task of controlling the product to do what they need to do. Let the engineers worry about using it instead of installing it. They shouldn't have to worry about installing it. I know when I was in the work environment using SolidWorks, I knew nothing about installation. I just knew I showed up every day to my computer, logged in SolidWorks, I double-clicked on SolidWorks and it ran. As an engineer, that's all I care about. I don't want to monkey around with installations. Unless I am the only guy and I don't have a CAD admin, I don't have an IT department, then yeah, I do care about it, but I'd rather let someone else worry about that and let me get my work done. And you can manage that with the option editor and admin images and all that stuff. Yep.
Two things. One, so does the admin install, when you create it and so forth, and you add the computer, does it tie into AD or SMS?
No, you have to do that by the computer name. So you have to know every computer name, unfortunately.
So can you tie that into a text file where you can add the computer through a text file, export it through the AD to add the computer names from a particular group to make sure the installation goes in, rather than individually type in the computer names?
No, you'd have to individually do it.
All right, and second thing is...
There is an enhancement so that you can enter IP addresses instead of a computer name, because IT-heavy people know IP addresses more than computer name. Can't do that yet, but we know of requests for it. Yep, the other question.
And the second question was SolidWorks installation. User, it's installed in the background. User decides to shut down the computer halfway through the install.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't know it's running in the background. Will it automatically restart
the installation? In the push scenario? Yeah. I would think it would, because SolidWorks by itself, regardless of whether it's an admin image deployment, individual or whatever, it's a self-correcting installation, which is sometimes you might see you reboot the machine, do something, and you see a window popping up saying like modifying or repairing. It's detecting that something's wrong with the installation and it wants to recreate it, repair it. So in that scenario, when you reboot, I'm guessing, I haven't tested it with the push install since it's new, but I'm guessing those processes would kick back off and finish what it's doing.
The other part of that, say they're using a workstation laptop, so they take it and they bring it home. Will the old revision of the software work until they get back and connect to the server of the new installation?
I'm not sure I followed that. Can you say that again?
All right,
sorry.
So I have a workstation,
Yep.
Laptop,
Yep.
that it was starting to do the install.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having to go.
Okay.
Brought it home.
Okay, yep.
To sit there and continue working at home.
Oh.
Not realizing that the installation.
And the installation's coming from a network?
Right, now, right. Installation
Yeah,
comes from the network. Now
it won't
it's
continue.
home.
It won't continue. Because it won't have access to that location.
But I need to open up SolidWorks to grab a file.
Will my existing installation be okay?
Even though the new installation didn't take place.
If you chose the, yes, I'm installing a new major version as opposed to the upgrade, yes. If you chose the upgrade, that existing installation is going to be in a state of uninstall or partial install. But if you're installing, you have 2012 on there already and you're just installing 2013 new, the 2013 won't work, but 2012 will be fine.
again, it shouldn't matter if the installation location is unique, but definitely in that case, if you specified, I'm installing to SolidWorks 2012, that's going to remain untouched with a new install, so it'll be fine. But if you didn't, and there's SolidWorks 2, 3, and 4, maybe something got screwed up. But it shouldn't, but that's always a thing. Yeah, so I'll be at the tech support booth in the pavilion all week, all day tomorrow. Feel free to stop by if you have any specific questions, something comes to mind.